Hi, I'm Joe Silva, and maybe you're a business owner that has hired before, but you're not quite sure where those numbers are coming from when you go and pay out the budget for that employee, or maybe you've never hired before. Maybe you just started or you need some help, and you're not quite sure how to budget out for that next new hire, that first new hire. That's what we're going to discuss today. We're going to talk all about understanding where the real costs come from, what those costs are, so you can budget properly when hiring your next employee. And this is all part of pillar number 3, payroll technology of the ideal payroll service solution. Now, most people, they just hire and assume that when we pay somebody $10 an hour, that you pay them $10 exactly. And that's not really the case. There's some other factors that are involved in determining that budget for you. And it's important to know so that you can have a clear picture of what your total budget is for your business. So not just hiring, but this could impact your entire business budget. And that may be exactly what's happening to you right now. You're not quite sure, or maybe you're just using a guesstimate, whatever the case is, but we're going to go over the details right now. So let's take a look at step number 1 of the true cost of hiring an employee. And it really starts with understanding the employer tax side. And then there's 2 sides to taxes. So like I mentioned earlier, most people assume that, okay, if I pay somebody $10 an hour and they work 40 hours a week, that $400 is your budget for that hire. And that's not the case. So you have other things involved, such as Social Security tax, so that's 6.2%. You also have Medicare tax, that is 1.45%. And then you have federal unemployment tax, that is 0.6%. Now, all of this is on top of that hourly wage. So that $10 an hour times 40 hours, you add on top of that the 6.2, the 1.45, and the 0.6% tax in order to get your real expense. So that tax is in addition to what you pay by the hour. So the subtotal of all of that is 8.25%, above and beyond what you normally would pay their hourly rate. But wait, there's more. So step number 2, we're not quite done yet in calculating that true expense. There's another step here. Step number 2 is state unemployment tax. So I mentioned federal unemployment tax earlier. This is state unemployment tax, and oftentimes this is confused as unemployment insurance, but to a business owner, this is really a tax on your business. Now, every year, the state that you live in will assign you a tax rate, and those tax rates will vary depending on how long you've been in business, what your industry is, and what your claim history is. So if you're in a construction industry, for example, those typically start higher than a retail shop. Or if you've had a lot of claims over the years, your tax rate will be higher than if you've never had a claim. So it's similar to auto insurance. The more you use it, the higher your tax rate will go. Now, I'm in Nebraska, so in this example, we'll use that. But the tax rates can vary from 0 to 5.4% tax. And this is paid on the first $9,000 of wages that an employee earns. Now, every state's a little different. They're going to have different tax rates, different tax thresholds, so you don't pay that tax all year long. But again, it's better to overestimate in some of these things and just assume that that's your budgeted expense. But in general, the tax rate will vary from 0 all the way up to wherever the state decides is the max. And again, I'm in Nebraska, and that's 5.4%. Now, when we add those together, we get our true tax percentage. So we had the 8.25% from earlier from the Social Security, Medicare, and federal unemployment. Now we add in the state tax rate. We'll assume we're at the max rate, the 5.4%. So that gives us a total percent of 13.65%. Again, your tax rate may vary. So maybe yours is 0%, maybe it's 1%, maybe it's 2, 3, anywhere in there. But we're going to use 5.4 in this example. So in this example, my total tax rate is really 13.65%. So back to our previous example of somebody working $10 an hour at 40 hours, so they earn $400. Now we add in that 13.65%. So when we calculate that, we have $54.60 of tax on top of their wages. So the true cost is $454.60, not just the $400. So that's step 2, is calculating your unemployment tax rate. Step 1 was calculating what the federal employer taxes were. Step 2 is adding in the state unemployment tax rate. But wait, there's more. There's always more, right? There's more fun. Step 3, we're going to dive into workers' compensation to get your true expense. So workers' compensation is often confused with unemployment tax, okay? But they're very, very different. Unemployment tax is known as unemployment insurance. I mentioned that earlier, but really it's an unemployment tax on businesses. workers' comp insurance is protection from injuries on the job. So unemployment tax is given to employees when they're terminated and leave the job. Workers' comp is given to employees when they are injured on the job. So very different things and very different functions. But the way they're calculated is similar. So workers' comp is based on a percent of the wages earned for each employee. It also takes into account job duty. Okay, so if you have somebody on a roof hammering shingles versus somebody sitting in an office setting on a computer, the risk of them getting injured is very, very different being on a roof than in the office. So that roofer is going to have a higher workers' comp rate than the office employee. And then it is also determined on claims history. So again, similar to earlier, the more claims you have over the years, the more risky the insurance company is going to deem your business, so the higher your insurance rate will go. So in our example, let's just assume we have a rate of 5% of workers' comp. All right, this will be assigned by your insurance company depending on these things, the job duty and the claims history. But that 5% will be added on top of what you pay somebody. So again, in our example, we pay somebody $400. Our workers' comp expense for that week is $20 in addition to that $400. So now to get our true expense, so step 4, to bring everything together, bring everything full circle, we want to add together the employee wage, the employer tax, and the workers' comp. So in our example, we have the employee wage of $400. We had our total employer tax at $54.60. We have our workers' comp at $20. Our real expense, our true expense for our business in hiring an employee is $474.60 per week. That is our real expense. So we've got to look at that, which is very different than just the $400, right? So we've got to add in taxes and workers' comp insurance on top of what we do. Now, there may be other factors if your company offers a health plan, things like that, that would also be included in the employer costs, retirement plans, things like that. But this is a basic example so you can get an understanding of where these numbers are coming from. You can add in any additional costs and expenses that you see fit to get your real expense. So that's how you calculate the total expense and the total budget for hiring an employee. So whether it's your next hire or whether it's your first hire, that's going to be the same all the way around. And again, your rates will change annually based on your workers' comp and your unemployment tax. So a lot to pull in there, right? But once you hire them, once you understand that budget, you'll know, yes, we can afford somebody else for X amount of hours a week, or no, we have to hold off and earn more income before we can hire somebody. So it's a really valuable tool for you and for business owners to understand exactly where those numbers are coming from. Now, once you understand that you can hire somebody and you're ready to bring them on board, that's when you got to get them paid, obviously. So that's where Ideal Payroll comes in. And if that's you, if you need help getting people paid, getting the employer taxes paid, calculating all of that, that's exactly what we do at Ideal Payroll Service. So you want to contact us. You can reach out to us here on wherever you see this video. Send a private message or a direct message to us, or you can contact our office at 402-614-3028. So I hope this helps. And good luck with hiring in the future, and we'll talk soon. Thank you very much for your time.